All right, so we are recording this. Thanks. We have Lynn Gale with us. She's a health and wellness coach, and she's going to talk with us a little bit about trying to stay physically healthy while we are all stay at home. So with that, Lynn, I'm just going to toss it to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lynn Gale. I am a certified health and wellness coach. I basically became this. I have a very long history in the corporate space, and I became a coach after I reclaimed my own health and lost 35 pounds. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I had left the corporate space because every day I ask the question, am I working for health today or am I working for wealth? And if your health is your wealth, then truly, what are you preparing for? And it took me a long while to really come to the point where I realized it was after I turned 50 that I really needed to spend more time on who I was inside and outside if I expected to grow as an individual and to be there for my family. So I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. So resisting the pantry during the pandemic. I know I can see Jim laughing. This is not my pantry. I found it on the internet, but I have to tell you, 2 years before I began my own journey, there were plenty of these same items in this pantry. And I'm hoping that the person who put this up there did a before and after. But the most interesting part of this is that it seems like there's some healthy choices in there. And I studied this photograph and I only found one item that would pass as somewhat healthy. And those are the nuts in the bottom center of this pantry. So whether you have a pantry that's as disorganized as this one, or whether or not you have a pantry filled with ready to eat food, we might find ourselves running into what we're terming as quarantine 15, which is once we come out of quarantine, are we all going to be 15 or more pounds heavier? And how do we stop that cycle, especially when we don't have accountability, meaning that when we're out and about with our clients, our customers, we are busy speaking and presenting. And what happens truly when we're inside the house more than we expect? We tend to get bored. We tend to just be accountable to ourselves, and we are certainly our own worst enemy when it comes to that. So why is it not your fault? So I wanted to go ahead and just read something to you, and then I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about our 10,000-year-old bodies. So 10,000 years ago, there was no obesity, heart disease, or type 2 diabetes. Just getting enough to eat was a struggle. We foraged for food most of the day. If you found a bush full of ripe berries, you ate them right away because who knew when or if there would be more. If you caught an animal, you and your clan ate the whole thing then and there. 10,000 years ago, being overweight would have meant that you were an extremely successful member of the tribe. Your ancestors may have made you leader. It would have taken a lot of ambition to have a body mass index above 25. When I hear someone say, I went to the party, before I knew it, I'd eaten a whole bag of potato chips, I think, well, of course you did, because our body was designed that way. So our 10,000-year-old bodies, to reach and maintain your ideal weight, you need to get on top of that inherent battle between your 10,000-year-old biological predisposition and your desire to be healthy. So our bodies are programmed, and I'll talk a little bit about this, to hold onto calories for the sake of survival, so that when you diet, you're really fighting your own nature. So 10,000 years ago, just like this page, talks a lot about when we eat, our bodies store that fat because they don't know when the next animal is coming into the tribe. And we needed that for survival. It was a metabolic switch that our creator put inside of us to make sure that our species could survive. Now, we don't eat raw berries, but we now, in the world of plenty, can eat food almost to our desire, and we can eat every 4 seconds if we choose to. So here we are taking our 10,000-year-old bodies and we're putting them into the 21st century. And when we go into the doctor or we're talking to our friend, all the pep talk in the world won't help you. Just lose weight, go on a diet, get your exercise in. These are words you might hear again from your friend or a healthcare provider. It's all sound advice, and I've had this told me for the last 15 years, but it's not very useful without a roadmap to guide you, especially in the long term. And I'll get to the second point in the slide in a second, but when we are living in the world that is being provided to us today, know this, there are a couple competing issues that are happening that we're not even aware of, or we are aware and we don't know how to stop it. So as we're approaching this world where we have physical ease and we have lots of things taken care of us, we are not farming, our food is basically a drive away, and we can eat whatever we want as long as we have the money to buy it. So our bodies are storing excess calories and storing it as fat because our bodies are still designed to do so. But here's the problem. There are so many foods out there that are so delicious and made so exquisitely, we can't stop eating them when they're put in front of us, or we can't stop drinking it when it's put in front of us, because many foods out there are made to be delicious, raise your insulin to the point where you cannot stop eating it until you are so physically full you almost feel sick. So once you feel sick to your stomach, know this, at that point, you've probably already overeaten 50%. And we've all done it, and I've done it myself, and I've even done it after I've lost my weight. And it is really just a reminder of the fact that our bodies are designed a certain way. And when we hold on to all that excess fat in our body, if we're in the unhealthy, or I'm sorry, overweight or obese category, we are really carrying around a system that is so overloading our organs that there's no way that we can actually go forth and be the best human being that we need to be for our friends and family. So the second point here is that today's food industry is run by accountants. The food industry is not for you. It is for their stakeholders, and they have found ways to put in preservatives, addictive items into our food, and it's run by accountants so that they buy low and they sell high. And as we're eating Lay's potato chips, which I believe their logo was, bet you can't eat just one, they knew early on that we are of people that will keep buying cheap food because it makes us feel better. And before I go to the next slide, always have this in mind. Our mind and our body are always at odds with each other, because our brain is the most powerful thing on this planet, and it wants what it wants when it wants it, even to the detriment of our body, which is below, neck down. It does not care that high fructose corn syrup is highly addictive as cocaine. It does not care that all of the fat that we find in potato chips is now sitting in our gut. It does not care that we are a population most likely to sit down on our bum all day and not care. So what's going on here isn't really necessarily making decisions for what's best down here. Okay, so again, it's not your fault that you're struggling. So let me stress once more again, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that we were born in a time of unparalleled plenty and physical ease, or born with a body that stores and conserves energy. It's not your fault that we're confronted by food that's more plentiful and addictive than any other time in history, with a day-to-day lifestyle that finds us at a desk or on the couch in front of the TV. So we are struggling, and know that it's not our fault. But what is our fault is when we choose to ignore information and not proceed in a way that we can make healthy choices. So again, the food industry is not your friend. And who is your friend? Vegetables are your friend, and we all know this. Meat is also your friend. High quality unrefined grains are your friends. Strawberries, avocados, tomatoes, peanuts, sunflower seeds, all your friends. And when I look at the foe, you guys might want to challenge me on some things, but I wanted to talk about what your foe is in life and also on the GI chart. The GI chart is short for glycemic index. And on the glycemic index chart, which we will provide to those who are on this call, is basically a rating of food based on the pure fact of how it raises your insulin. Now, when you eat, let's say a candy bar, our insulin raises right to the roof, stays up there for a while, and then we crash. It's almost as an equal reaction to a high and then to a low. And we've all been there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon where we desperately want a pick-me-up because we've crashed after lunch. So think, if you have that crash feeling, let's go ahead and think a little bit about what we may have eaten for lunch. So again, high fructose corn syrup is in so many things. I bought some applesauce a couple weeks ago when this pandemic started. I was hoarding a little, I'll admit it. And I just grabbed the largest one I could find. And then we opened it up and had it with dinner. And I'm like, man, this is really good. So I'm just sitting there, flip it around, second ingredient, high fructose corn syrup. And that's what I struggle with. I struggle with a soda addiction and a sugar addiction. And as soon as I saw that, I really got mad. I'm like, you know what? People are buying this for their kids. And the parents are saying no to soda because of the high fructose corn syrup. But there it is, snuck right into applesauce. And it was Mott's. And I was kind of mad at them. And then, you look at Heinz and everything. It really goes to show you again. Yes, some Heinz ketchup has regular sugar, but if you go and look at the Heinz ketchup being sold at Costco, it has high fructose corn syrup in it because, of course, they want to get the best deal to the Costco customer, and high fructose corn syrup is like 10 cents on the dollar. So you have to watch out for that. Corn sweetener, corn syrup, all bad, bad, bad. Fructose sweetener, bad. Lactose, maltose, bad, bad, bad. If it ends in OSE, it is sugar. And again, high fructose corn syrup is addictive as cocaine. It lights up basically the same areas of our pleasure brain. And myself too, trying to get off of regular soda is very, very difficult. Okay, so now what? Okay, we know that it's not our fault. Okay, processed food isn't good for us, and we've all been told that. Okay, the GI chart can tell us quite a bit. And I am actually, let me go back for a second here. I skipped something, or maybe I didn't. Nope, we'll get up to that point. Yes, we are conditioned to like sugar before anything else. And this is interesting because, here we go, I missed this. So here, on this one here, I never went back into the faux. So processed foods, we all know that chips, crackers, bread, cereals are all processed. If it has more than a few ingredients, it's a faux. White pasta, potatoes, risotto, rice cakes, faux. Rice cakes, I remember back 15 years ago, that was like the big diet thing. Faux, it's a highly processed white rice. Very satisfying because I tried to lose weight with that, and instead I had 4 of them because it raised my insulin and I wanted more. Corn is a big no-no. We love corn here in the Midwest, definitely in August, September. But if you are going to have corn, have it on the cob. Eat it in its natural state. Corn is used in probably 1,000 different other products. It's processed. And when you look at corn, just know that it's used for gasoline, and it's also made into Tostitos and different cereals. It's ground into its unnatural state, and that could be a problem. So additional faux are blueberries, apricots, cantaloupe, watermelon, kiwi, bananas. Why is that the case? Well, even though these fruits are very good and high in vitamin C and fiber, they are also extremely high on the GI chart. So I have never met a watermelon I didn't like, and guess what? Watermelon has the most sugar per fruit that I've ever seen. And kiwi are the same. Strawberries are pretty low, so are avocados and tomatoes, but know that eat fruit in very small moderation, because if you were to be me and say, well, look, I'm eating healthy and 2/3 of my plate is a fruit salad, know that back in my old ways, that would not be tolerated today. because my insulin would be spiking, and then I'd probably chase it with some bread and maybe a little bit of chicken and then think I was doing the right thing. All right, so, okay, we talked about the GI chart. We're also conditioned to like sugar before anything else. And what I wanted to talk about that quick statement is that as a infant, we are basically started out with breast milk or regular milk, or not regular milk, formula, and it's sweet. So sugar is not evil. We're born with preferences for sweets, and our taste buds prefer sugar because we can safely digest it and support our body functions. Breast milk is sweet because we need that concentrated fuel to develop our bodies and grow our brains. Our brains connect sugar with pleasure because that relationship has allowed us to survive. So when we are first born, that instant connection to something sweet to calm stress is immediate. It happens within hours of birth. And when we have that strong connection that starts so quickly, do know that it is it's a very addictive thing. And we all wonder why we're struggling in the fact of today with eating sugar, high grains, fast food. It makes us feel better because we've been conditioned to do that since our birth. Okay, so now what do I do? Lynn, thank you. This has all been very interesting so far, and I've heard some of these things before, but now I'm stuck and you're telling me I can't eat all this, so what do I do next? So I wanted to go back to this lovely pantry. Cliff bars, everyone would think those are healthy. I used to eat a lot of them. The number one ingredient is organic brown rice syrup, which is sugar. Premium crackers, I actually have this in my cabinet right now, and I took a look. 5 crackers is 70 calories. I have never met a sleeve of premium crackers that I didn't like before I lost my weight. So I can only imagine that that was 500 calories. White pasta, super refined. Pretzels, refined. Ketchup. Ketchup's okay just as long as you use it in small moderation and it doesn't have high fructose corn syrup in it. Raisins, absolutely not. Super high in glycemic. Check cereal. Nope. Refined. Peanut butter. Nope. Sugar, sugar, sugar. Chocolate chips. Sugar, 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 sugar. All right. That doesn't mean we can't ever have those again, but we need to be aware.
What about the natural peanut butters?
Natural peanut butter is just fine, and they do sell that, but do know this, that natural peanut butter is kind of bitter. And the first thing you're going to want to do if you're making like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is put a ton of jelly on it, which is a ton of sugar. So the naturals are just fine. Just take a good look at the label to see if any sugar's been added. But it's an excellent source of protein. And I even like the protein powders, the blasted peanut protein powders too. Those are all great. It's when we start putting in sweeteners to make something more palatable that we start to run into some trouble.
Thanks.
Okay, so Lynn, what are you, a dietitian or a nutritionist? Certainly am not. So I wanted to show these pictures. This is me on the left-hand side in 2018. So that's me dressed for my corporate work in some Marriott somewhere. I went on vacation to Hawaii, and then I went on vacation in the next picture to Kentucky. And I was been carrying that weight, that 35 pounds for over 15 years. And when I say carrying it, that means I was carrying it on airplanes, struggling with my suitcases, going on vacation, being in bathing suits, just horrified by this, how I looked. And then this picture down at the bottom, I hiked up this mountain in the Smoky Mountains with my husband. And we took that picture, and 2 weeks later, I changed everything about my life because I saw that picture and I just knew I'd let myself go, and I was desperate, and I was sad, and I was depressed, and I was angry. I had so many negative emotions. It was a very powerful moment for me when I saw that picture on the bottom. So I like to say, look at me now, and at 51, the sugar addict lost 35 pounds in 3.5 months. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about how I did that. This is mostly a nutritional talk, but I do want to share my secret, of course. But know that that picture of me hiking up to that waterfall was July 2018. I lost my weight in 3.5 months, and the picture to the right was actually 1 year later in July 2019. And there's many things here I want to tell you about these two different girls. The one on the left was miserable, who was losing her job, was using food, alcohol, soda, pizza, anything she could get her hands on, trays of brownies, because I was emotionally mismanaged. Everything was changing my life, and I was very unhappy. I'd been in a 21-year corporate career that was ending, not by my choice. So I used, for the first 6 months of 2018, there was no carb that was safe. And then everything changed, and I like to say that I survived this huge life transition. And what I want to tell you about the girl on the right, she became a health coach because she saw how important her health was. And my hair grows and my skin glows and I feel amazing. And that smile on my face is a controlled smile. I could have been jumping up and down, just shouting to the world how great I felt. So if you are at any age thinking, oh, I should feel this way because I'm 51, absolutely not. I feel better than I have in my entire life. When you take out the things in your body that are not meant to be there, your body can function appropriately. And that is my message here is don't ever give in because you're of a certain age. It doesn't matter. You are allowed to feel amazing. Okay, so, okay, Lynn, what can I do? To begin, everything should be solidified in education. Education spurs knowledge, knowledge affects choice, choice becomes habits. So there are 6 macro habits of health that I have been taught and I coach on. The very first one is healthy weight management. So 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. Where do you fit in? You can really find out pretty quickly by pulling up a BMI chart. And if you don't want to look one up, I did supply one to Jim along with the GI chart, so he can go ahead and forward that. Now, when you first look at your BMI chart, you might want to kick and scream like a 3-year-old and deny it. Please know it's accurate because I kicked and screamed and said, this can't be. I'm one section away from being obese. And I knew I was overweight, but one block away from being obese was really an eye opener for me. So what can I do? I want to let you know what I did. And this is just an option for anybody on this call as a sideline conversation. But I became a health coach representing a company called Optavia. Optavia helped this sugar addict, a person who didn't like to cook or didn't even know what to cook. They showed me how to lose weight through a very good nutritional program. And 70 to 80%, probably closer to 80% of all weight loss occurs through nutrition. 20% of that is through exercise. So if you're thinking you're going to lose your weight effectively, safely, and quickly through exercise, it will actually take you 10 times longer. Not that exercise is not vital. It is, because we need cardiovascular health and we need movement, and we don't want our muscles to, shrink. That's all very important. But if you are in a weight loss phase, know that nutrition is the way to go. So I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian. I didn't even know what to do because this girl here likes carbs and Wonder Bread and peanut butter and jelly and all those type of things. So through their program, I was able to go through the process and lose that weight in a very controlled system that was amazing. It wasn't, I could say, yeah, it was hard because I had changed my habits, but it wasn't so hard that I felt like quitting. I knew that I had to do this and it was the most important thing I could possibly do for myself. So I did lose weight through the Optavia system and now I coach that. But let's assume that you don't want to investigate what I can do for you via Optavia. So what can you do on your own? So, and the next question is, how do you keep it off? And what does your DNA tell you? So what can you do? The first thing I would suggest doing, it falls under one of, or 3 of these 6. Number 1, eat 6 times a day. Make 5 of those meals smaller, protein-rich based, with items that have very low sugar. We all need sugar and carbohydrates for brain function. So anybody who tells you that you can't have any carbs is incorrect. We do need a certain amount of carbs every day. I would suggest maybe 15 almonds and 4 strawberries, something like that. Maybe some cottage cheese. and maybe 2 apricots, something of that nature. Eat 6 times a day. Get your calories to about 100 to 150 calories per meal. And you're going to eat that small meal 5 times a day. And then you're going to make 1 meal yourself. And that's going to include vegetables and a lean protein. But don't make it so large that you are ingesting more calories than you need to. So we like to say 5 to 7 ounces of lean protein, 3 servings of non-starchy vegetables. That will get you into that fat burn, which is keto or ketosis. And if you can stay on that program, you will see weight loss and you will see better health. That's one way to do it. The second thing is make sure you're getting at least 64 ounces of water a day, at least. If you're a larger person, more. The rule of thumb out there is drink half your body weight in ounces, and I can't stress that enough, with water. That doesn't count with coffee. It doesn't count with your wine or anything else you might be drinking. It is water. And you can flavor water today to make it more interesting, but that is another thing. And the next very important thing is absolutely going to be getting 7 to 8 hours of good solid sleep a night. You can't function on 5 hours. There's no way. You're actually just killing yourself along the way if you get less than that. So how do I keep that off? Very simply, you become accountable to yourself. You keep a food diary. You say, I'm not going to be more than this weight, and you dial it back. It's called structural tension. And another important fact is that we all have our DNA. So please know that your DNA is only accountable to about 30% of who you are currently. 70% is based on your habits. And yes, there are some habits that are learned from birth. Do know that 70% of anything that your body is reflecting is 100% based on your choices. Yes, we may be predisposed, I can't say that word, predisposed, you guys know what I'm saying. I'll have to work on that. But to have maybe certain cancers or cardiovascular diseases, just know that you do not need to feed cancer sugar. You do not need to feed cardiovascular events with saturated fat. That's just going to feed them. So be very cognizant of what your DNA is telling you. We have a wealth of knowledge today on our ancestors. Once you reach a healthy weight, again, a food diary, write down what you're really eating. What are you really drinking? How much water? I love this food amnesia because this was me. I would have a really bad day food-wise, and then I say, oh, I'm going to do better tomorrow, I promise. And then tomorrow would show up, I'd forget what I ate the day before, and it was an endless cycle. I was on the habits of disease hamster wheel, and food amnesia is important to recognize because we will always get in our own way. Healthy motion is another one. So what does healthy motion look like? To me, that looks like a lot of movement. I'm not a runner. I don't like the treadmill, but I sure as heck like to mow my lawn and do the dishes and be on my feet and hanging out with my 5 dogs and my husband and my 2 teenagers. I like to move. I like walks. I like when people tell me they've walked and had 10,000 steps in a day. To me, that's healthy motion. If you really enjoy running, but you haven't done it in a while, I suggest going from the couch to 5K. That is a wonderful program. I actually have it printed up on my wall right now to say, okay, I really need to get some healthy movement because I've been on my bum now since the first snow on October 31st. So let's get that motion in. And if I do want to run, that's great, but let's work up to it so I don't get discouraged. If you're doing too much exercise, that can actually prevent weight loss. And that's a whole another discussion on that. But one thing I want you to consider is, are you including yoga, Pilates, massage, some weightlifting? These are all very, very important, along with meditation and being, just move. Healthy sleep and energy movement. Again, keep a sleep diary. Sleep is one of the biggest areas of mismanagement that I see in relation to weight gain. So how much do you sleep? What's the quality of sleep? Are you up too late binge watching on Netflix or social media? We get really weird about 2 hours before bedtime. We find ourselves and all of a sudden like an adrenaline rush, meaning like, are you pulling adrenaline to keep you going so you can sit there and be in a stressful situation or Netflix or whatever it is, know that 1 hour before bedtime, you should not have any blue light on. You should be winding down, taking some deep breaths, getting ready for the day tomorrow. Keep that routine. Because I fell into that Netflix hole too. I'm not, I say this because it's so easy for it to go to the next episode, especially after cliffhangers on all these wonderful shows. And be careful what you're watching too. You know, if you're watching something pretty violent there at the end of the night, your body doesn't know that, your mind doesn't know the difference between violence that's happening to you or violence that you are watching. Healthy mind. This is important. This gets right from the segue of the last slide is, what are you feeding your mind? Are you feeding your mind things that are helpful, or are you feeding things that are unhelpful? And everybody's answer to that question is different. So healthy mind, what type of stress are you carrying through the day? What is your relationship status? Emotional mismanagement, feel those feelings. So here we are today in a pandemic that we don't know when that's going to end. There's mixed messages out there. One thing that we've kind of been talking quite a bit about in our health coaching realm is that people are finding themselves lonely and depressed, and they're shelving those emotions because they know it's because of the pandemic. They're like, oh, well, I can't go out and this is really hard and we're just going to have to deal with that later. And I'm just going to go watch some Netflix and eat some chocolate. And that's some of the answers for some of the people. So mismanagement is when we start to do things we normally wouldn't do because we're under a situation we are not familiar with. So this pandemic's an excellent example. When this all came about, to me, it kind of sounded like, okay, we get to stay home for a week and mind our P and Qs, and we can hang out with our family. Well, now we're into week 7 or 8, and lots of things are happening. I'm afraid that people are going to come out of this alcoholics or drug addicts or 15 pounds overweight, or maybe even underweight, unhealthy, because stress creates a situation that is very difficult for our body to take, especially for the long term. So feel those feelings. If you're depressed, recognize them, let it run its course. If you have grief, let it run its course. What's the self-talk going on in your mind? What lies are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself that you're a wonderful person and that you matter? Or are you telling yourself that, why do I bother even getting out of bed and getting dressed? No one's going to see me. I want to let you know I am 95% good on getting up and keeping my routine. Showering, doing my hair, my face, wearing clothes, not pajamas. I've been really good, and it's been important for me to keep that routine. The last two are really, really important for a healthy mind. How are you treating social media? If you like a lot of icky stuff on social media, Facebook and Instagram will keep sending those icky things to you. If you like things that are lovely and are positive in nature and you like them, Facebook will know that you like those and it will keep feeding you that type of content. So choose to like what is funny and joyful and what is the light. Always look for that. And I know we're not really hanging around with many people right now, but look at the 5 people you hang out with the most. If they're negative Nancy's, negative Nels, whatever, it's time to break up with them. And I know that could be hard because it could be a family member. So if you are hanging out with people who tear you down, make you feel bad, make you want to drink, make you want to overeat, they are not feeding your soul. And it might be time to evaluate the role that you want them in your life. Healthy surroundings is basically your external. What's your work life like? So back when we were all going into work, did you have dirty cubicles and mean people and bad food? And when you pulled into the parking lot, did you notice that everybody drives crappy cars? Well, that's because if they do, that's because that company's paying crappy salaries. So look at what you're surrounding yourself with air quality and motivation and how people treat you and how they treat your career. How's your home life? Do you have a safe place in your home that you feel comfortable in? I call this room here my sunshine room. It's summer in this room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because I am not a winter girl and I need the semblance of summer in my life to keep my emotions high. And now we have this home work life. What's that look like? Where are you working? Where are you separate? Are you working in your bedroom and sleeping in your bedroom? Are you working in your dining room amongst animals and children? That is important to set some boundaries if you can, so that way you can be a worker in one place and live the rest of your life somewhere else. So back to the pantry. This is a really good example of a pantry that has healthy items in it. And since we've gone through these 6 macro habits, I was totally stressed out when I saw that one pantry. And now I look at this pantry and feel calm. We should never walk into a messy pantry, because it's going to make us crazy, and we're going to want to start digging for those chips because our mind isn't functioning as ideally as it should. My pantry has ingredients in it. There's nothing made in my pantry. I can choose some nuts, and I do have some raw popcorn that I will pop in a brown bag without oil or anything. I'll pop it, put it into a bowl, spray it with some olive oil, just a little bit, and add a little bit of salt for flavor. And that's my healthy, all natural snack. Know that when you are stressed, you will find yourself running quickly to whatever helps you reduce your stress. And if that is a processed food, it's going to be gone in a flash. And it will make you feel better for 5 minutes, and then it will make you feel horrible for the next 24 hours. So in this slide, I want to say what stop, challenge, and choose. Stop. If you find yourself consciously or unconsciously in front of the pantry, unconsciously because your body just walked over there because you were stressed and you were looking for the first carb you could find. If you're in front of that pantry by choice or not by choice, stop yourself and challenge why you're even there. Lynn, are you here to make dinner, or are you here because you're looking for a carb? Well, Lynn, carbs don't live here anymore, and it's not time to eat. You're just stressed. Can you just walk away from here and go take some deep breaths? Go outside, change the laundry, do whatever to distract you from some caloric intake that is not going to serve you. And I like to say 95% of the time I choose to take that sound advice. There's 5% of the time my choice is to go head first, and the first thing of cereal I can find in my son's room or whatever. We keep all the processed foods in their bedrooms and not in front of my face. So yeah, there's times that, I feel I'm nowhere near perfect, but 95% of the time I can stop myself and prevent myself from doing anything that's going to be harmful. And if you do choose the negative thing, just know you've consciously chosen that. And by doing so, you won't go into that loop of, oh my God, I ate all that. Now I hate myself. And, oh, I feel terrible. Tomorrow I'm going to be better. And then you do it again and again and again. And you feel shameful because you have no control or no willpower. Well, if you do stop, challenge, and choose in anything in life, whether it's about food or what you're going to drink, or what time you're going to go to bed, or how you're going to react to that driver that cut you off, or how you're going to react as a parent, stop, challenge, and choose will always, almost all the time, 95% of the time, result in the best choice. Some of our decisions can last 0.4 seconds, some can last 4 minutes. But if you stop, challenge, and choose, you might find that your life has really, really improved. So quote to remember, we first make our habits and then our habits make us. This is a very wise individual that said that, because when we develop our habits, it's because as human beings, we cannot make 10,000 decisions an hour. We need our habits to self-drive us. And by self-driving us, know that if your habits are good, there's not going to be any thinking about it. We're just going to do it. I drink lots of water throughout the day. It's just a habit. I don't question it, and I don't even think about it, and I crave it. So what habits are in your life that need to be changed? And I'd be happy, most certainly, to talk to anybody about these 6 macro habits, any micro habits that need to be changed. Lots of times we just need that conversation to understand where we're tripping up, and there just might be a few tweaks. Some people like myself had to go through all 6 macro habits and make some changes. And that's why I'm always on my health journey, always on it. I'm always watching it and evaluating it because I don't want to be that girl who was overweight and miserable and depressed because that girl wasn't happy. This girl's happy and plans to be happy until the rest of her days. And it's something worth protecting. So again, if your health is your wealth, what are you preparing for? And I want to thank everybody. And I'm going to send it back to Jim. Jim, let me know if there's any questions.
I have one. There wasn't one in the chat, but so you mentioned 6 meals or 5 snacks and 1 meal a day. So we all think of a salad being a healthy meal, and obviously that can vary, but how do you get some variety? What things do you eat for dinner? What do you make for dinner?
Oh, okay. So I have to preface this by saying I'm not a foodie. So I'm kind of a bland eater. But I would say a good way to look at that is to say, do some meal planning, look online. There's so many resources for healthy food choices. I also have a really great resource that I can supply to you too. So that way you can set that up to begin with. So you could certainly have a dinner. The one that is sort of my go-to always is grilled chicken and a salad. But that gets tiring after a while.
Right.
So I've seen lots of recipes that are basically no bread, no pasta, but it looks like a lasagna, like a vegetable lasagna is fabulous. You can buy high protein pastas that are just wonderful. You know, they're made with various ingredients. So that way it actually fills you up and isn't a carb and doesn't have that insulin response. So some meals might look like that. I know that my wonderful partner, Cheryl, who's also on this call, she came up with a really tasty cauliflower pizza crust that she'll make in a batch and freeze and then take it out. And then you can dress it any way you like. You can put pizza sauce on there and some cheese, or you can just use it as a vessel for, you know, just vegetables. So there's lots of ways that you can emulate. Emulate the way that food is prepared for you. And once you kind of leave carbs behind in its horrible fashion, like flour, breads, pastas, things like that, you'll notice that your taste buds will change and you'll find a lot of these alternative ways to eat very palatable and delicious.
Well, I'm going to shut the recording off, and then we can ask questions. The attendees in the room can unmute if they want. That way they can ask without being recorded and having to be a fear of being recorded. But thank you. We appreciate you coming on and giving us some good tips on how to be healthy as we're all stuck 10 feet away from the pantry.
Yeah, just stay away. Just say no.